Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Is it just me, or does that woman, who you just heard, sound uninterested? It annoys me. You want to be introduced by somebody who sounds slightly excited or, positive. Welcome. Whatever. I don't believe I ever shared that with you, but there you have it. Jeez. I want to say how nice it was to see and talk to and meet some of you Saturday night. Was that Saturday night? Yeah, at the Parkway Theater, where John McIntyre had a bunch of us there for whatever that was. But it was very pleasant talking to some of you and seeing faces where I just conjure up. Remember during COVID when baseball games went on and some stadiums were putting cardboard figures in some of the stands, I guess, so the players would feel like they weren't alone? Or is that something that didn't happen that I'm mixing up with some, I don't know, something somebody put together, since none of us know what reality is anymore? I don't know. Jeez. Okay. Well, here. Last evening, I was getting into my sort of Sunday evening mood, which is a mix of resignation and anticipation. And I don't know, it's odd. I mean, it's something that I guess Sunday night has had that kind of import since I was a child, and it hearkened that the next day I had to get up and go to school. So Sunday night sort of stands out in its own way, except when you are on vacation or retire, or I remember during COVID when days didn't matter anymore, and you didn't even know what day it was, and that was disconcerting. I don't know where I'm going here. Where was I going? Oh, not pleasant. I had seen something on social media about this unbelievable Ukrainian attack, multiple attack on Russia. This brilliant, extraordinarily brilliant attack. And I was seeking out more information about it, because the more I got information, the more excited I got and wanted to know more. And also, of course, because we live in this day and age, I wanted to know if what I was reading had even really happened. So I turned on CNN thinking this is a big story, and CNN would probably be sharing something. And instead, I got suspected terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. And I thought, oh, when you hear suspected terror attack, I don't know where your head goes. But where my head goes has changed. It depends on where we are at any given moment, who we think of when we think of terror, who the perpetrators might be, and who the victims might be, right? Those have changed. used to be, when it came to terror some time ago, you would think, well, back in the day, my sense of the first time I became aware of terrorism as a tactic, it was the PLO. It was the PLO that attacked the Olympics in Munich. So if you go that far back, that's the first time that, and I remember, and I've shared with you my my astonishment that a tactic that was so brutal, that involved killing innocent people to draw people to your cause. I couldn't understand how that was a tactic that would yield positive results. You're going to show yourself to be brutal and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, you're going to, people will flock to your side. And it's always astonished me. But yeah, uh, the Palestinians now, there they were, the terrorists. And now you cut to the terrorist attack of yesterday, and it's people, it was a result of, uh, you know, it hadn't occurred to me. And I wasn't even going there. I was just going to start with, where did I, wow. So when was the Munich thing? And that was that was a long time ago, guys. And that was the Palestinian cause tugging at the sleeve of the world, saying, look at us. And it worked. But how well did it work? If what? 50 years later? How much long? There's still innocent Jews being killed or attacked to tug at the sleeves of the world to come to the aid of the Palestinians. It hadn't occurred to me that there was a circle that I was bringing up. I swear, I was going to say, the first time I heard of terrorism, it was Palestinians. The next time I heard, it was, where it really hit me was Islamists. And I was always confused about what their grievance was. It seemed to be with just the Western world in general. But 9/11, so we were attacked. I don't know, what did you think was the purpose of that attack? If you don't have a ready answer, that's interesting, since it was the most horrific attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor. But that too, being terror, was a tug on the sleeve of the world saying, look at us. We're pissed off, right? And then lately, terror to me has been terror from my fellow Americans, from the right. The terror that Black Americans know all too well. The terror of the KKK, the terror of white Christian America. But then, quickly on the heels, comes terror from the left. And so when I heard there'd been a terror attack, I remember thinking, oh God, from where, at whom, or who, I don't know. And when I started this little trip through the history in my head, I really didn't realize I was starting at one point and going to end up back at the same point. I did not. Wow. I hadn't thought it through. So I guess I'm saying, so how's that working for the Palestinians? They have succeeded in making Israel into a hated state and making Jews all over the world yet again victims, but hadn't gotten them a home. Hasn't gotten them anywhere close. I think I once told you about meeting a Palestinian woman in Israel. I was in the West Bank and I spoke with her. Her family had suffered because of the Israeli occupation of the land that they had lived on and were living on. And her brothers were actively fighting the Israelis, and she was. And one of her brothers ended up in jail. Her mother ended up trying to get to a hospital, very ill, ended up not getting to the hospital in time and dying because of Israeli checkpoints that they had to get through and that slowed them down. And she said it was after her mother's death that she thought, where has it gotten us? This isn't working. And so she now was working with this. She had reached out to a rabbi and they were working together and because she thought the only way was to come together to stop killing each other. And it is the rare person that comes to that conclusion, to stop killing. There's never enough of them. And they're often looked on as traitors. Stop killing. Sit down and talk. I left my meeting with her in tears, and really, to this day, I can't get her out of my head. She also had embraced me and said to me, I'm sorry if I was looking at you before. I hadn't noticed she was. I'm sorry if I seemed to be staring at you. But you remind me of my mother. That might have been when I started crying. Because it is, in many ways, a family feud. Palestinians, Jews. There's a reason they both claim the same land. It's their land. Breaks my heart. I don't know what else to say. Just breaks my heart. And so I was watching CNN, and they're doing what they do. There was very little information, so they call in people who are good bullshitters, and they're talking about they're speculating this, they're speculating that, they're talking about what they would do, and they bring in the cops and the former FBI people and terrorism experts. And one of them was just flat out saying, well, this Jews, American Jews being targets is becoming clearly a thing, which, believe me, American Jews have noticed. Um, and I had said to you more than once in the last few weeks about a poll question asked by the weekly Jewish newspaper here in Pittsburgh to the Jewish community. Have you stopped attending Jewish events for fear that they might be targeted? And I was surprised that only 25% of those that responded had said, yes, I have. I was going to go, and I thought, I don't want to go so much that I'm willing to die. And this guy, the terrorism expert, was saying, Jews are going to have to stop being so public about what they're doing. You can't advertise that there's going to be a whole bunch of Jews at a place at a certain time. And I thought, excuse me? Like, what about Friday night when Jews worship at synagogues? Or Saturdays when Jews worship at synagogues? Or the high holy days when Jews are, even Jews who don't normally are there, like Christians on Christmas and Easter. You want to kill a bunch of Jews, that's when you do it. And he talked about how police are going to have, large presences around. Well, I've already told you, I can't go to a synagogue without going by police. That's been going on for years already. Would you like to go to church and feel like you're entering some armed camp? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So these Jews were attacked because I guess every week they got together and walked and tried to draw attention to the fact that there were still Jews being held by Hamas 600 plus days after the horrific attack on Israel on October 7th, which resulted in Israel's unrelenting and brutal response. And the people who do this do it every week, so this guy would have known they were going to be there. So that's the kind of thing Jews are being told you can't do it. I remember seeing just a few weeks ago that one of the purposes of terrorizing a group, is to keep the group from public life. If you are a group that isn't the current target, it's hard to get a crowd of you because members of the group are frightened. And that is one of the purposes of this tactic of terror. And here was the terrorism expert showing how it works, because his advice was for Jews to get out of public life. to not gather together. And if you were going to gather together, keep it on the down low. That's living in America? I guess so. Anyway, apparently, I don't know if more is known about the victims or if anyone has died, but these were old people. I mean, the oldest victim was 88 years old, from what I've read. 88 years old. And this particular terrorist tried to set an 88-year-old woman on fire and apparently succeeded. So, okay, I'm done with that. Although I did see this interesting little number. How many Jews do you think there are in the world? As many as there were in 37 or 6 before Hitler started just, burning them? I'm not sure that's, I think they're, geez, I don't know. Has that deficit been made up in the ensuing years? I would hope so. But since anti-Semitism is showing that it's back big time in America, you can come from the right, you can come from the left, you can come from the middle. It apparently doesn't matter. Hating Jews is just human. It just seems to be, you can be somebody who lives in a country where there are next to no Jews, where you've never even seen a Jew and you hate their guts. It's bizarre. And if you are a Jew, it's bizarre. It's just, it's hard to take in. It really is. So, this idea that the Jew hate comes from, it takes this form of Jews are alternately like these repellent characters, but also somehow manage to control the world. I've never figured out if Jews are so capable of controlling the world, why would half of the Jews in the world have been annihilated just in my mother's lifetime? I That ain't no power. It doesn't bespeak much power. Jews are apparently just, they're behind everything. So how does it figure? How many Jews are there in the world? That's what I was wondering. I mean, we don't even make up, I don't think, 3% of the American what's the percentage of Jews in America population? I mean, when it comes to minorities, we are. I know Black Americans feel very much like a aggrieved minority, as they damn well should. But geez, a Jew looks at Black Americans and says, man, but you guys, you got numbers. Look at you. You got strength in numbers. You got so many. I don't know what percentage of the American population is Jewish. But what I saw is the percentage of the world population. It's not even 1% of the world. It's not even 0.75% of the world. It's not even half of 1% of the world. It's not even 1/4 of 1% of the world population. No, Jews make up 0.2, 0.2% of the world's population. So that's amazing. I'm just blown away by that. That can't be right, Allison. Are you telling me that Jews make up 15% of the American population? Is that what you're telling me? That can't be right. Uh, no, I don't know why you're saying 15. I'm just looking. I just Googled it. 2.4%. So I was close. 2.4%. Man. All right. Well, that number should be going down if the Jew haters get start ramping up. And that's the other thing, of course, that these experts were saying on CNN, that these things tend to snowball. Oh, wait, it's Jew killing time again. We gunned two of them down in DC the other day. We've set a bunch of them on fire a few days later in Boulder, Colorado. So it's just whatever. So anyway, that's all. I'm just saying, fuck. And speaking of fuck Mason Rudolph. I wanna, and I'm not, I'm just, I'm borrowing that from, although I felt the same, from John McIntyre, who said it Saturday night. For those of you who don't know, Mason Rudolph, I guess, is perhaps the Steelers quarterback, and he came on stage with Donald Trump Friday. Yeah, when he was here in the Berg. Mason Rudolph. Trump called him look at this handsome quarterback. Yeah, yeah. Mason effing Rudolph. And then I saw somebody, and well, John went further than I. He said that he now wanted Aaron Rodgers to come to Pittsburgh. There's nothing that could make me want Aaron Rodgers to come to Pittsburgh. Nothing. But I saw somewhere, and again, I don't know if it's true because it was social media, that Rocky Blyer was in attendance too. Tell me that's not true. I always had a soft spot for Rocky because he's a sort of my same age, and he's from the same part of the country. He grew up 30 miles south of where I grew up. Then again, he grew up where Joe McCarthy grew up too. Fuck. Oh, okay. So I want to go back to Ukraine because that was the good story. That is unbelievable what they pulled off. It is so mind-blowingly masterful. David and Goliath 2025 edition. Whoa! And in so many ways, it's wondrous because what they did, well, I thought somebody put it really well. They said, Russia bombs schools and hospitals. Ukraine bombs the planes that bomb schools and hospitals. So this was not only brilliant, but it was the most humane form of warfare. It used the technology for precision, targeting military targets, not schools and hospitals and civilians. Masterful, honorable warfare, blown away by the audacity of it, that this was a year and a half in the making, the patience of it. They built the drones themselves. Everything was Ukrainian. They smuggled drones into Russia all the way. I mean, if you've looked at maps of where they hit 4 separate fields, I mean, what thousands of miles away in Siberia, closer, some closer to Ukraine. They managed to get these things in, and not only get them in, but build little houses like around them. Little houses housing the drones, like right next practically to military facilities in Russia. And at the push of a button, the roofs of these little houses came up and the drones came out and went for the planes. I mean, mind-blowing. And apparently, they didn't leave anyone who pulled this off behind. Everybody got out before the button got pushed. I mean, in terms of tactical warfare, this was a master class. I can't imagine what's going to be written about this. Some of what's written about it, I'll give you a few because I just so blown away by it. Here's somebody writing, what Ukraine has done is a game changer. They used armed drones to destroy the military backbone of an invading army with absolute precision. They're not hitting hospitals, homes, the citizens of the country, or any target that is not specifically military. And America was kept out of the conversation entirely. Make no mistake, this is a turning point for a number of reasons. And then Max Boot had a lot of really good stuff to say, to my mind. He said there's little wonder that the Russian military bloggers are condemning this attack as Pearl Harbor, their Pearl Harbor. But he says, but that is inapt because Pearl Harbor was the Japanese in an audacious hitting of America's military. But it was the start. By doing it, they started a war. the Ukrainians did not start this war, the Russians did. And thus, they can't do a Pearl Harbor. They are simply defending themselves in a war started by Russia. But Max Boot goes on to say, but the analogy does work in this respect, that the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor was the first signal that things in warfare had changed. It signaled how air was going to be where battles were started and, in fact, ended from the air. But the Ukrainians with the drones, those drones just cost apparently just a few thousands of dollars to build. And the planes they destroyed they took billions of dollars of planes out. Unmanned. And he points this out, which is unsettling. And what this does is reveal a vulnerability that should give every general in the world sleepless nights. Because if the Ukrainians could sneak drones so close to major air bases in a police state like Russia, what the hell would prevent the Chinese from doing the same here? Or the Pakistanis in India? Or the North Koreans with South Korea? So militaries around the world have just been put on notice by the ingenious Ukrainians that their air bases are unsecure. And they are vulnerable from the skies by cheap drones that pretty much anybody can get their hands on. And then he says this, and as a taxpayer, I sigh heavily. This will necessitate a massive investment in counter-drone systems. Money spent on conventional manned weapon systems increasingly look to be as wasted as spending on the cavalry in the 1930s. And I love this. Again, Max Boot. During that infamous Trump-Zelensky argument in the Oval Office in February, Trump told Zelensky, "You don't have the cards." Max Boot says, well, Zelensky just played his Trump card. He had the cards, Ukrainian ingenuity. And the Ukrainians have consistently shown themselves to be more courageous and skilled than the Russians. So, just want to say, wow. Just wow. Amazing. If anyone's trying to call, I don't think I think I screwed this up. I don't know what I did, but I'm sure capable of doing it. And I think I did. Um, so that's the good news. And you gotta grab it when you can. I'm just so blown away. I hope to hell that the damage done to the Russian air capabilities was as astonishing as they're saying it was. I mean, and the fact that there's these videos out there of just these planes sitting there and one after the other, just mind blowing. How many how many military people are going to be falling out of Russian windows in the next few weeks? I'm just asking. Has Putin been heard from? I suspect not. Unbelievable. Okay. Well, those are the. I mean, those were the two big stories, and both of them coming yesterday. Boulder and Ukraine. And oh, another good line. Got Elon Musk left town apparently too, right? And his drug use. Anyone who knows anything about drugs could tell that Musk clearly was on drugs a lot. Um, the way you know, that day in Butler where he was jumping up and down and behaving bizarrely. He was high as a kite. Um, I don't know if you've ever seen the video of him. He's sitting at a table next to the table Trump's at, like a round tables, some dining room, probably Mar-a-Lago, and he's sitting there with some woman, and he's stoned out of his mind. He is He's playing with a spoon. Have you seen that one? This is the world's richest and supposedly brilliant man. Yeah, he's stoned out of his mind, playing with a spoon. And he says now that he isn't. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine. And if he was doing a lot of ketamine, uh, and he's doing Adderall. Apparently, he's doing high things to get him high, things to bring him down, things to. I mean, that's the recipe for eventually doing yourself in. So he left Washington, a failure. Um, he didn't do anything close to what he said he was going to do. He did a lot of damage. He managed to kill a lot of people, destroy people's lives, take their jobs away. I do think Michelle Goldberg has it dead to rights. She wrote that his legacy is now clear: disease, starvation, and death, because the one thing he did really well is take down USAID, which was our wonderful soft power throughout the world that fed people, that helped get HIV under control, that saved lives. And he destroyed it. And people in who work in, global health have already said that his destruction of USAID has already probably killed, these are their estimates, 300,000 people, most of them children. because they are most vulnerable when the food stops. And she says, Goldberg says, if there were justice in this world, Musk would never be able to repair his reputation, at least not without devoting the bulk of his fortune to easing the misery he's engendered. Well, we know that ain't going to happen because he is famous. I mean, he flat out said to Joe Rogan that the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. Yeah. And he is superior to those of us who have empathy because he possesses none. But his, going after the waste and fraud in DC with his buzzsaw, again, since he's done it, it's been people crunching numbers say the cuts he made, one estimate actually says he's ended up costing the government $135 billion because of the damage he's done and then the efforts to jerry rig some kind of responses to the damage. So Matt Bay, or Bai, don't know how to pronounce it, had a great line. He said, "This was your reform strategy, Elon? I mean, really? You're supposed to be this great visionary, hyper loopy guy, and this is all you had? Essentially a reorg plan?" And here's the great line: "The cat in the hat arrived with more sophisticated tricks." I love it. I hope you remember the cat in the hat. Dr. Seuss. The cat in the hat created chaos in a more sophisticated way than this so called genius. Oh, God. Okay. What else do I have? What else do I have? I don't know. Oh, I started watching something. And I'm going to, it's 6 episodes. I've only watched the first, and I binge. I do. I have no control. It's like I binge eat, I binge drink, I binge everything. I have absolutely no control. And this, though, which I really liked, I did not. I actually, I now it's 2 days out, and I haven't watched the second episode, even though I so loved it. And it's because I thought it was so mind blowing that I still am processing it. It's called, and it's the second season of this show, but this is a totally different iteration of it. It's called The Rehearsal. It's on HBO, I believe. And the genius behind it is a guy named Nathan Fielder, who does cringeworthy comedy. My son turned me on to him in the first show. Nathan for You, I think, was the show. It was so cringifying. It made Curb Your Enthusiasm look like Mr. Rogers. But this, The Rehearsal, this season 2, is mind-blowingly fascinating because he's taken on a really serious subject. He's taken on what causes airplanes to crash. And he's hit on what clearly is one of the big factors. And frighteningly, it's a human factor, which means it's not like something you can get a wrench out and fix. It's what happens in the cockpit between the two pilots who are sitting there. And he goes through the transcripts of some big plane crashes that have happened. You know, when they get those black boxes and they can hear the pilots talking before they crash. And astonishingly, over and over, it's because the secondary pilot is afraid to tell the number one pilot that he's wrong and is afraid to grab the control, even though they know they're about to die, they will not grab the control. So it starts out really seriously and fascinating, and then goes off into the way he then handles it. He says they need to be taught when you're training pilots, there needs to be these rehearsals of how you handle a situation like that so that you'll be able to get the courage to, it's sort of like, it made me think of all kinds of things like why Republicans are afraid of speaking out against Trump, all kinds of stuff where your status, where the sense that you're secondary and are dominated prevents you from doing something that will actually save your life. I see, by the way, that it's just gotten rave reviews, the entire thing. So I feel like having just seen that first one, I can, it makes you think, man, it drives you nuts. It makes you think. It's mind blowing what he does. It's mind blowing. You want a genius, there's a genius, without a doubt. And he's not killing anybody, he's trying to save people. The Rehearsal. So actually, I've now been, we know something is seriously wrong with planes are crashing more than they have. And that has to do in large part too with our air control system. And man, I was reading in the week about it. And if you've traveled out of this country anywhere, one of the things that quickly becomes apparent is how embarrassing so much of our infrastructure is. I mean, you go anywhere, I'm not kidding, anywhere. You can go to a third world country and you end up with a better, railway system and stuff like that where people are, safely transported here, there, and everywhere. It's just mind blowing. Mind blowing. And airports are a big indicator. Our airports often seem incredibly rickety, but it turns out that our air traffic control system, oh my God, oh my God, Listen to this. This is from the week, okay? Much of the equipment in our control towers is decades old and analog. You won't believe, listen to this. Sorry, I keep saying listen to this, but listen to this. While other countries' air controllers use digital displays and infrared-based systems, American air traffic controllers are trained to use floppy disks, paper flight tracking strips, and World War II era radar. I am so blown away by that. I'm just blown away by that. They don't have digital displays. If I'm in an airplane, if I'm in a goddamn airplane, I can be on a screen using a digital display, showing the plane I'm on in real time exactly where it is. There are apps where I can see other planes and where they are. And the air traffic controller doesn't have that? What? What? I'm serious. What? %90 of control towers are understaffed. The controllers working with paper and floppy disks are working 10-hour days because they're understaffed, 6 days a week in this incredibly stressful job where lives are at stake. It's so stressful that the mandatory retirement age is 56. And a whole bunch of them never make it to 56. They can't. They got the shakes. And on top of that, they got the shakes, so they start drinking or doing drugs. They develop physical and mental health problems. But they don't seek professional help because if they did, it could cost them their jobs, which require medical clearances. And every time you get on an airplane in this country, that's the system that holds you in its hands. Robert writes, Nathan Fielder shows creep me out. Yeah, they can be. Yeah, without a doubt. But Robert says, but I can't stop watching. It's a new form of comedy, if it's comedy. Well, I did not find that first episode funny at all. And I was transfixed. Transfixed. No, I don't know. What ends up happening to me, I don't laugh. I mean, if I laugh, it's uncomfortable laugh. But the premise of what he's doing and the way he plays with your head about, using actors and what's real and what's not, I'm so mixed up half the time. It makes you wonder. And there again, it's why I can't do. I'm girding myself to do episode 2. I'm going to do it today, I think, or tonight, with a drink. I don't know. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. Okay, you guys. I guess we're out of time. Hey, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I mean it. I'm exceedingly appreciative. And enjoy the fact that it's not raining and apparently the sun is out. I intend to go do some work in the garden. So the plants should beware. She's coming.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
See, she sounds happier now that the show is over. She sounds happier
The
now.
opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.
I don't got no advertisers.